now that it's beginning to sink in just what Texas is dealing with, I thought we should take a bit of time to talk about what Texas's options really are at tailback. And while they're not outstanding, because nobody wants to lose C.J. Baxter or Christian Clark for that matter, in preseason camp, you can look at the roster and feel okay about adding to that running back room, especially knowing that Texas recruits really, really well. I think in a perfect world, you go get a graduate transfer that has had 1,500 yards rushing and 15 TDs, but seeing as that dude don't exist right now, this is what you got. I also think that Texas might be able to take advantage of somebody else's misfortune, meaning had a running back from Fresno State or Utah State gone into the portal and they were good because they've had changes at head coach, that would have been worth something. But frankly, it didn't really happen. And any running back in the portal right now that you want either doesn't fit the criteria or, frankly, just doesn't fit with Texas. One of the things to bear in mind here is if you bring in a prospect who's not a graduate, one, you can't right now. You got to wait till the regular season, right? Ends. Two, right now, all the guys that are in the portal have baggage with them. Like one of my favorite guys coming out of high school was actually similar to C.J. Baxter, DeMarcus Bowman. That dude averaged over 11 yards per carry out of high school and was a consensus 5-star, unanimous 5-star, who bounced from Clemson to Florida to Central Florida and still hasn't found a home. But guys like that are not necessarily what you want to bring into your program right now. What you want are guys that, A, Texas is a, believe it or not, academically challenging school, and playing at the level of football that they want to play at, especially this year, you can't take any chances. You want to have guys that are in that room that understand what it means to be at the University of Texas. What you want is another Roschon Johnson, because they ran into this, right? Roschon was a quarterback. He converted to tailback to help the football team. Turned out to be a great move for him and a great move for Texas. I think you're much more liable to see that out of Texas roster right now with guys like Ryan Niblett, Juan Davis. Keep going down the line. You see a bunch of guys that have played a lot of football in high school on both sides of the ball, and frequently that's what you see. You see guys that were offensive juggernauts that play defense or wide receiver or whatnot when they get to their major college football destination. One of my favorites is DeMarco Cobbs, who came out of Central just down the road from me. That dude was a max prep All-American player as a quarterback. He's playing linebacker at the University of Texas. And again, they got those guys on the roster. I think if nothing else, what you're really asking is who can pick up the pass protections the quickest, not just who can run outside the tackles, but who knows how to set up blocks inside the tackle, and who do you trust not to be a liability if you have to put them out there. Now, we basically get to pencil in Jaden Blue here and Trey Wisner as your two guys, but you're going to have to be careful about your personnel packages because you don't want to lose another one. And Jaden was already a guy that was probably going to get a lot more snaps this year than he did last year because Jonathan Brooks is no longer here and C.J. Baxter has risen to RB1 yet again until the injury. I'm curious about what this feels like for Texas fans because on the one hand, you get to say running back is a position that we can fill as opposed to, say, offensive line. That's a much more difficult one to fill. On the other hand, does it put a dent in how you should feel about your season? I think we'll wait and see, right? It really depends on just how quickly Quinn Ewers can gel with that wide receiving core because I got to tell you, I'm much more interested in how Quinn is going to identify his top targets through playing than I am the running backs because Xavier Worthy was such a big part of what they did last year. And they got those guys, right? You got a guy like Silas Bolin. You got a guy like Isaiah Bond. You even got a true freshman, Ryan Wingo. But Wingo, and even though his brother plays running back, I don't think that dude fits. Like, I think there's still so much that man has to learn before you trust him to play other positions or ask him to move out because that could be your future that you're mortgaging there to cover up a hole that, depending on how you deploy your personnel, might not actually be a hole. We're going to find a lot about what the run game looks like when they go play Michigan in Ann Arbor on September 7th, but they got to get past Colorado State first. And I say get past because Colorado State is plucky. Do I expect them to beat Texas? Absolutely not. Do I expect them to test them in ways that we haven't foreseen? Yeah, I think that's going to happen to everybody in week one. You're going to find out what you have, and you're going to make some adjustments, and then you're going to figure out, oh, we should have been doing this more or that less as you go into week two and really get a bead on what you can expect from your 2024 Texas Longhorns football team. I'm not sensing the panic that I thought I might from Texas fans, which is kudos to you for really just being level-headed about this as much as you can. I hate that next man up stuff because it's not next man up to the guy that blows out his knee or blows out his Achilles or can't play for whatever reason, or his family, or the people that root for him. Because in a lot of ways, these players represent so many other people when they're on a football field. And I know we think about the team and we think about the university and we think about standing, especially with Texas, in the SEC and the college football playoff. But what I'm more concerned about is which one of these guys is going to have a teacher from some high school that just loves to see that dude out there and get to tell his his students about that guy was right once in your seat. I think that guy can emerge from this running back search that they're doing. I also got to really give kudos to Steve Sarkisian for answering this question because I thought it was a no-brainer, but, whatever. Are they still hitting? Yeah, they thud. That's what you do in preseason camp. You thud. You don't stop thudding because you want to protect the football team until about a week before, right? They got to hit a little bit. They have to know what's waiting for them on the other side. This ain't the NFL where guys are already have honed their craft and they know how to tackle. They know how to block. You're still teaching, believe it or not, man. They're talented as all hell, but you still got to teach some of these guys proper stance, proper technique, proper alignment. And in doing that, they have to be able to follow through those steps and hold on to the football and or wrap up and put people on the ground when it comes time. Right now, thudding is not putting people on the ground. I think as we get closer and closer to game week, which begins next week for most, you're going to see less hitting, and we're probably going to wind up right now just stopping doing that, right? Because the next person you hit gets to be somebody on the other team is what I would be telling my kids right about now. I don't know that this is going to be a talking point as we get into the season, though, either. Because I think what we're really going to take a look at is who gets most of the snaps. And then, in getting most of the snaps, do you put that person, the guy on the 2 deep, back in the cupboard for a little while? So what I'm saying is, if Jaden Blue ends up with, let's say, 30 snaps, 40 snaps against Michigan, which would be a lot, right? I think. But if he proves that he can handle the workload, do you just put Trey Wisner over there and say, hey, we're going to leave you in reserve in case something happens in November? I think all of that is going into Tashard choice for running backs and when he chooses to play them and how, and also what Steve Sarkisian thinks he can and can't do given what he has in the tailback. But again, that offensive line is fine. That offensive line is good. They have a star in Kelvin Banks. I think they're going to be okay no matter who's behind them. You're just wanting to have depth. You don't want to get caught out. You don't want to have to yell, where's Chris Comer? You don't want to have to yell, I need a running back. You want to know who that guy is when you go in to play some of these name brand opponents later on in the year if you are Texas. So I think we're going to see somebody emerge, and we're going to like what we see.